Hi, my name's Maddison. I am a director and co-founder of Cintoro Sales and Marketing. A little bit about my career journey and how I've got to here and where I'm at today. So I've always been in sales and marketing. It's sort of my passion and the career path I chose very early on, around 20 years ago now. Really heavily focused, I guess, in the tech sector for me. So I've sort of come through a lot of different tech companies. The biggest and most notable of those is Canon, the big Japanese multinational. And I've done a variety of different roles over the years, sort of jumped around between roles, but heavily in the marketing space, heavily in the product side of things. So I've always been in that strategy end of marketing more than, say, the marketing communications end, although I've run some pretty big teams over that time in different roles across product, channel, and communications. Worked in a few different countries, so spent some time here in Australia as well as working overseas in the UK and North America, which have really helped me during my career, I guess, getting out of Australia in my 20s and really experiencing, a lengthy period of time. It was around almost 5 years in total, working and living in a different country. Really helped shape my career and sort of gave me some different, I guess, values and a different experience of the world, which I was able to bring back to the roles I've done here in Australia. I don't have a preference for sales or marketing, really. I think they're a lot more closely related than sometimes people give them credit for. And certainly in this day and age where your marketing program really drives your strategy, they have to be tighter than ever. So our agency now and what we do today is really focusing on our clients who are predominantly small to medium businesses, but who is their client and why do they buy from them? So we always start with a strategy. So our focus towards marketing and business is really around build a good plan, really understand your client, and then go after them and find out how you can engage them and get them to buy from you. And I think being a strategy agency as opposed to just a digital or an agency that focuses on that marketing communications piece has been really good for us. It's sort of given us a bit of a point of difference in the market. So around the question of your career being a series of sprints, or as opposed to just being one long ladder. Look, it's a pretty good point, and I think there is some value in that. I think for me, the sprint for me, or the change for me, is when I moved back to Australia and worked for Canon. I kind of got to a point in my career where I wasn't sure what to do, what the next step was, and that for me, it turned out, was to work for a big tech company and to get into product marketing, which had always been kind of my passion. So I got into a role, I had some product experience in the past, but for smaller companies. So working at Canon enabled me to learn how to stakeholder manage, which was a really good skill set to learn. So working with a lot of different people from sales, technical, management team. As a product marketer, you tend to do things like write business cases that get noticed by the director or the CEO. So you're presenting to often not just in Australia, but overseas in the case of Canon. So you become very public in a business very quickly and a source of knowledge. So you gain a lot of experience in dealing and interacting with different people in different roles, with different personality types. Sales, you get all that bravado and ego, whereas a technical resource can often be a lot more quiet, more introspective, and they learn and work in different ways. So that was a really interesting skill for me. And then in Canon, moving jobs, I had 4 different jobs in 8 years. So it was enabled me to get experience across different areas of the business, and I think set me up for what I'm doing today in running my own business, which we started in 2015. So that's now 6 years in. Best and worst career advice I've ever been given. So probably the best career advice I was given was be resilient. It might sound like a simple statement, but it is something that I think is an underrated skill to have. Your career or your business or whatever it is that you're working in will not always be smooth sailing. You're going to have periods where things are going really well and the good times are great and you should celebrate them. But I think it's more about how you respond to the tough times. And it might be where something goes wrong, a project doesn't work, you're not delivering the way you want it to be, sales aren't where you want them to be. It's how you keep resilient during that period that will define how your level of success or how your career goes. And I think that was a great piece of advice to learn early on, and something that I think everyone has to kind of work at, and something even now today, 20 years in, that I still work at and I'm constantly fine tuning. So, that a good example of that is don't hang on to, a loss. I think particularly in running your own business, when something goes wrong, you kind of dwell on it and spend too much time trying to overanalyze it. I've become, I think, pretty adept at being able to move on from that. You learn from it, absolutely, but compartmentalize that and then move on. I think that's a really important skill to have. Worst career advice that I was ever given. I'm not sure what the worst career advice probably was, but if I had to think back to it, I think that some people can be really close-minded in their view. And I think if anyone tells you that you know everything and that you are the best at everything, then they're probably selling you a false truth. So I think sometimes praise in the workforce more than advice was probably a difficulty for me. If I was lucky, I was pretty successful early on in my career, and I think you can get a bit of an ego and a bit of a big head around it. And I think if you can learn to curb that, then you're probably going to have a better experience. People working with you anyway will have a better experience, but you'll be a much more approachable person. And as you get older and I guess a little wiser, I probably look back on some of that and wish that I'd probably pulled my head in a little bit earlier at a younger age. What did I wish I knew when I started my career? Good question. I think for me, I think I probably went into my career very driven around finance and money and being successful, and I think I wanted to get there too quickly. So if I think I had have known when I started that it was, there's going to be multiple journeys along the way. I wasn't going to just go down one path and instantly be successful. And I think when I was in my early 20s, I was probably pretty gung-ho, and like a lot of young sales and marketing people probably thought I knew a lot more than I did. So if I could go back and counsel that younger version of Luke, I'd probably tell him that he needs to just relax. It's going to come over time, and that if I continue to prove my value along the way, then that'll be recognised. And if I'm working with young business people now, I often have to say to them, you don't need to be a manager by 25. Don't set yourself unrealistic goals. Work at being really good at what you're doing. Learn along the way. Learn from the people around you. Learn from your mistakes. Be prepared to spend a bit of time and a bit of tenure at doing something and prove that you can do something over time. Don't rush to try and be everything to everyone. And I think, if you can be prepared for that, you put yourself in a better position to get more opportunities as you go along, whether that's an opportunity in the career path you're in or an opportunity to do something new. If you learn that, not putting that pressure on yourself, it'll probably put you in a position that you're better off in your career to be able to get the things that you want. What's the biggest mistake I've ever made? Well, there's plenty of those. Probably one that I think now, looking back, is I wish I'd started my own business a little earlier. I think I'd always had an idea that I'd enjoy being a business owner and enjoy doing my own thing and having that flexibility to do it. But I probably lacked a bit of the courage earlier on to get it done. I started when I was 35-ish age-wise, so I probably felt I had enough experience then and enough gravitas to be able to go and do it. But maybe if I had done it a little bit earlier and a little bit differently, maybe I'd be in a different position in my career. So while I love what I do now and I really enjoy having my own organisation and having my own team and having all those things, maybe if I'd have done it a little bit sooner, maybe if I had that courage, it might have been a longer career in entrepreneurship than it has been now. Key to my success, well, I guess there's probably a lot of things that have been key to what I've delivered and done over the years, but I think going back to my point around resilience, being able to be adaptable and respond to situations that happen, and try and learn from those experiences and not take that all too much to heart has probably been something that's been successful for me. I think the other thing is probably just being driven. I'm a pretty driven person, and if I decide I want to do something, I tend to push myself pretty hard to go and do it. So I think being resilient and really having a drive for it. If you're not passionate about it, you're always going to struggle, I think, in my view, to really communicate it to someone else or engage them. And I think, building relationships with people in business is really, really important, particularly when it's your own. And I think, hopefully for me, that passion I have for it comes through in the way that I communicate about it. And it makes it easier for people to buy into what we're trying to do because it's something I really believe in and I'm really passionate about. I think that drive, that ability to get out of bed every day and work really hard at a goal has gotten me a long way in my career. I've been very lucky that I've had some really good mentors along the way that have helped me learn the skills that I needed to, but I think have really encouraged that drive in me. And I think it's something that's probably big in my personal life, and it's also big in my professional life. So, if I had to pinpoint one thing out of all of those things I've just talked about, my drive is something that I'm proud of and something that I hope sticks around for the length of my career, because it's certainly gotten me to where I am today.